Whereas for our system, like it's very tough if you're just relying on the NWSL to get there, because you're going to sit, you might get drafted, like there's so little chances and so little room for error. But here, like, this is really fascinating. So I'm not sure on your thoughts of like 19-year-olds in different countries versus like the US, but it is awesome to see, but I'm also kind of jealous at the same time to see this, because I know there are a ton of American keepers that can play at this level.
Well, it's a double-edged sword, right? Because you're sitting here saying we need, like, you want goalkeepers to have experience. And, do I think you'll see a 19-year-old goalkeeper starting in the NWSL anytime soon? No, I don't. I am kind of the old school that keepers do get better with age. And yes, you lose a step with age, but you gain such a perspective and understanding of the game. And so the mistakes that you're seeing Keating make are from being immature, right? It's coming out, not putting a clean block on it, and then just getting back with depth and trying to make up for the mistake and like bad distribution. I think that those come from youth. Why aren't you pushing your team up in this situation? Why do you have a defender standing right in front of you with the ball bouncing around at the top of the 18? That comes from experience. Get out of my 6, get out of the box, understanding that you have to clear your defense first. Why aren't people marking up? Is she 19 and not understanding that this is a chess game and you have to move your chess pieces? And so that comes from experience and age. Now, the argument there is, well, how do we get experience? All right. We get experience by playing. So in 5 years, she could be one of the best goalkeepers in the world, because at 19 years old, she's playing in front of 40,000 people, for Man City. And so do you roll the dice and say, we're going to develop her and we're going to throw her into the mix? I don't think that is the philosophy here. I think that you have enough goalkeepers that have so much experience that it would be hard for a 19-year-old to unseat them. And it would be hard when every single game is so competitive, it would be hard to justify developing a player in the run of a season.
Yeah.
Like that right there. It's not a good save to me. That, her coming out and open palm, smacking the ball down right to the top of the penalty spot. That comes from immaturity, instead of continuing that ball on the way. First of all, why did she go with one hand? She went with two hands, she would have held it. But that comes from immaturity. And they're lucky they didn't get punished on it. So there's your thing. I wouldn't start a 19-year-old. But again, I don't who what's their depth roster here? Who is she starting over?
Yeah. I have to look at their depth chart, but I know England has had a lot of young goalkeepers that they have been leading into, which has been really, Earps is like the only goalkeeper that's over 25 that's been in the national team picture. There's a lot of these younger keepers with Hampton, McIver.
But they haven't. But see, then there's the thing. They have an Earps. So do we say we're not going to fill it with a 30-year-old, a 28-year-old and stuff like that? We have an Earps. So we're going to start developing the next generation. And so that's the argument with the U.S. team here. Are you going to keep putting goalkeepers in there that are the same age or older? Or are you going to say, look, we're going to have an Air. We're going to have, whether it's a Campbell or, a Murphy, but then our next goalkeeper is going to be 19 or is going to be 20. And we're going to start developing that goalkeeper. They might not play, but they're going on the trips. They're in the training. They're in the atmosphere. They're going to the Olympics, what have you. Although I'm not sure if they'll take 3 to the Olympics. They might. But and I believe you do. I believe that other spot, that third spot, should be that developmental keeper. And yes, we have the youth teams and everything like that, but I don't think you load up your keeper position with your eldest players. Now, then the argument goes to it, you put the best. If you've earned it, you've earned it. And that's true too. But you do have to develop these keepers on a big stage at some point. So with the NWSL, is your backup keeper, do you have 2 30-year-olds and your third string that does travel is 28, 29? Where do you go from there?
Yeah.
Because look at on the field, what do you have? Look at all these young players on the field. That are coming in 16, 17, 18. And the reason you can do that is obviously because you can give them 15 minutes in a game and you could start developing them slowly. You can't do that much with a goalkeeper. You're not going to sub the goalkeepers. We all know that. So, but I still think on your roster, and a lot of the NWSL teams do that in their training. They'll have, Niku trains with Angel City, and you have like 16, 17-year-olds that train with New York and stuff. So that's good. That is that development. And they are starting to look at that and say, well, this will be our next round or next generation. We wouldn't start that player. I think obviously, Man City said, well, let's start the 19-year-old. But I think you're seeing the mistakes, and Arsenal should have done much better on those mistakes. Bottom line.
Well, and I think like it's interesting with like the investment and the growth in these leagues, because I think you're absolutely right. In some sense, it's like, man, you see those mistakes in the NWSL, like there's not a lot of patience. I mean, I'll be honest, like I think Anderson getting pulled from starting spot, I understand it, but I don't think it was like, wow, she like threw 4 goals in the back of the net. It was like, no, it's like not a great game, but like that's the margin of errors like in this league, whereas in England, most other leagues, like you're going to have that.
Well, and I think uniquely with Angel City, I think that knowing that you have a Haracic and an Anderson, and I think the margin of was very slim. But I think coming into the beginning of the season, you're at the bottom of the table. There were mistakes, whether Angelina, is almost ready or not ready. Didi will be. I think that first game was really shaky for Didi, but I think she's settled in. The goal the other day was totally defensive stupidity. Like gloves off. I mean, everybody stood around and watched. It was like, what is everybody doing? It's literally the last kick of the game. Like throw everything at that ball and get it out of the box. And everybody just watched the ball roll to the penalty spot. And, Nielsen put it away. And whether Haracic in another day could have come up with a save, it went through like 4 people. She was screened and, but I think that, that's unique to know that you have, and I think we're seeing that with more teams. So like Chicago now, Nair's out. Are we going to see a drop off in level, or will it stay the same?
Yeah. Well, and I think, I love the margins of error here because it pushes the ceiling high. And the next time you call a game, watch how often you talk about bad defenses. Watch how often the goalkeeper's life is more difficult because the defenders drop into space and they don't put pressure. They don't step to something. Like they think, oh, I need to go play goalkeeper too. And they like start grabbing for it. Drives me up a wall.
And again, so we're watching those clips from Man City and I'm like, why is your defender in front of you? Yeah. Like, why has she dropped deep? And that comes with, and that I don't agree with. Like that is your job. Your job is to clear people out of there. That was hammered into me by Tony Chico and everything. Get these people out of your area. This is your area. Own it. And I think you saw Roland doing that. So you don't see people dropping in on her. She's established the saves she's making. She's established her range. And now let me play in this. Don't drop in on me. Don't do it because I don't need you. Go play, put pressure on the ball. And another level of goalkeeping is telling your defense to do that, but also your defense's job is to make the shot that's going to come off so predictable and such a small window of angle that it's an easy save for you. And that's your job to help manipulate your defense to force that shot. And if you're not doing it, you're just getting blown into the back of the net. It's on you, but it's also on your defense. And I think you saw that with Houston, with Jane Campbell. I mean, everybody's talking about Jane Campbell making 12 saves and, she's got 40-something saves on the most in the league. I'm like, what does that say? It's not a good thing. Like, I'm like, great for Jane Campbell. Horrible defense. What does that say?
It's a team effort to defend the goal, not like, oh, it's just the goalkeepers or we need multiple goalkeepers in the play. It's like, no. Like field players, go do your thing. Goalkeeper,
exactly.
Do their thing and that'll work. But I don't know. I think when I zoom out a bit and I see all this kind of from like a higher point of, okay, this league's doing this and this league's doing this and this national team. On one hand, I like how England is really pushing these young goalkeepers, and I watch Keating and the reality is like there are colleges where I would start the current starting goalkeeper over Keating at that school. Now not everyone, but for me, it's like, okay, I know we have, in my opinion, better 19, 20, 21, 22-year-old goalkeepers that I would play over Keating. So I like that they're putting some investment. I like that we've got some depth, but also I think like the disconnect for me is seeing, okay, it seems like there's a bit of a pathway in England and with some other countries, not all of them.
And we don't have the pathway.
Yeah, and it's very kind of like, well, whoever shows up. The fact that we don't really know who Nair's replacement is right now is like, That's
well, I think we're going to start seeing more of a pathway here with the start of the USL Super League.
Yeah.
And like, just seeing Marley Canales get drafted today by Spokane and stuff. And like Marley was a great player in the NWSL, and and so, she went to UCLA, and just that for goalkeepers in itself, like, you're not playing, you're sitting on the bench in the NWSL. We don't know who's really going to play next for Nair. And if it's going to be the quality that Chicago needs. And so, but with the USL Super League, those goalkeepers that are sitting third or sitting on the bench, now they have another decision to make. Now they're like, hey, I can go start and I can get these games in, and it's all fall, all winter into the spring. And, and now we are developing. And I think what you will see in the USL is younger goalkeepers. I think you will see that because that's the pool to pick from. And I think you'll see goalkeepers fresh out of college that'll be starting. Where here, when you get drafted, you're not starting.
I noticed on the last episode I was typing, I didn't mute.
They're not Bill Reno.
Oh yeah, that is. I feel like that's the story of a lot of American players, just in general.
But how much overseas and fail miserably.
Gloves off. This is episode 3.
All right, hold on. Let me.
I noticed on the last episode I was typing, I didn't mute myself, and I was like,
"It's all good, dude."
Rookie mistake. I was like,
So I'm gonna play the intro. The gloves off intro, which is just kind of a crude intro right now. We'll come up with a more professional one, and then as that starts kind of slowing out, just mute yourself, and you can just start. Welcome to gloves off, yada yada. Okay. Introduce me, all that stuff. Ready?
Okay.
All right. Here we go.
All right, welcome back to Gloves Off. This is episode 3, and where Saskia? Saskia, where are we? Where's Saskia go?
I am definitely not Saskia, that is for sure.
This is the 1999 Rec League backup goalkeeper Michael Magid. Is that where were we in 1999, Michael? Where were we?
In 1999, I was in college, and I was getting that's okay. That's okay. I was getting ready to transfer to a bigger school, but I got an opportunity to go overseas and fail miserably at a youth academy overseas. So I learned really quickly. Oh, there's a big difference between playing college soccer and professional soccer. They're not Bill Reno.
Oh yeah, that is. I feel like that's the story of a lot of American players, just in general. Of like, you're feeling good, and then you go step into a bigger pond, and you're like, oh my goodness, you're kind of wide-eyed. So I remember hearing the story of this guy who, he was my age, and he was coming out of Colorado, set all the high school scoring records, and then he got to college, and he said it was like waking up from a bad dream, and then he didn't know people could be better than him, but he was in this small bubble. So, that's unfortunately a little too relatable story. But we're lucky to have you. Saskia's out today, but we are going to have we're still running gloves off here. Nothing's going to stop us. And Michael's going to fill in admirably. So we appreciate the time, Michael. Thank you.
I mean, honestly, man, I'm excited to be on here. I'm excited to talk some NWSL, obviously talk about some international keepers, coming into the league and everything. My favorite thing though, Bill, is when Saskia wasn't available and I was like, I could step in if you want. And you're like, not to take this in a derogatory manner, Michael, but how much NWSL do you know? And honestly, Bill, that's a valid point because there's a lot of pundits out there who don't follow the league. And, every once in a while, you'll connect with them and you'll talk to them and you'll realize, oh, they're actually not following the league. I think that's changing. Here, at least in the United States in that regard. But no, I'm a fan of the league. I follow the league pretty closely. I'm obviously very familiar with the goalkeepers. on Inside the 18, which is a sister podcast, as you all know, on the Union Goalkeeping Network. We've had a lot of NWSL keepers on, a lot of NWSL coaches. So I try to stay as for lack of a better term, up to date in the league as I can. So
yeah. No, look, I'll first of all, if I'm going to talk, women's soccer, I'm going to have someone that I know what they're doing. So no shade against you. I'm just doing my own homework, but also
completely.
I feel like there's just a lot of talk of like, oh yeah, we support this, we support that, women's soccer, blah, blah. And then when it comes to actually knowing anything about it, you'd be shocked at how many goalkeeper specific people really don't know anything on the women's game, although they are very, like, in theory, supportive of it. But when it comes to like naming names or watching anything, like, so I'm just doing my due diligence over here. But no, I'm glad to talk. Yeah.
Oh no, Bill, to be completely honest with you, and by the way, this is not a gender-centric situation either. It's there are people in whatever gender they identify as that don't follow the league, and it's very concerning, especially when you talk to young coaches or young players, which is another situation where I go, who do you follow in the league? Who are your favorite goalkeepers in the league? And they go, oh, I like Thibaut Courtois. I'm like, no, like in the women's game, like who do you follow? I'm like,
Hope Solo. Hope Solo.
That's a whole other conversation.
Yeah. You're right. And we could certainly go down that path pretty easily and for a long time. But I'm still shocked of how many players still say Hope Solo, like young goalkeepers on the women's side that are still saying, yeah, Hope Solo is my favorite, which I don't really know what to make of that. But it's discouraging to hear a lack of like naming names. So I'm always thrilled whenever someone has someone from a current goalkeeper that they're supporting. So this will be a nice transition in for us here, but let's step into the league here. And I think one situation that's really caught my eye recently is out in Seattle now. Laurel Ivory has replaced Dickey here, and part of me wanted to show the injury from Dickey just because I thought it was kind of like somewhat of a learning moment, but also part of it was just like, this is too, I do one of those cringe or like, I don't,
yeah.
I feel uncomfortable.
I don't like watching injuries again in replay. I know they always freeze frame, and I know they always like, pan in and everything like that. And I'm like, you know what? I deal with that enough in my own life. I don't need to see it in somebody else because I've turned that ankle, I've twisted that knee, I've torn that thing. That sounded weird, but you know what I mean.
No, I gotcha. Yeah, for some reason there's a, infatuation of like, hey, let's slow it down and watch. I'm like, no, like I'm gonna like look away. I can't. So Dickey obviously was the starting goalkeeper in Seattle, was playing well, still has a bright future ahead of her. But Ivory, who is right at the same age of her, has stepped in, and to my opinion, I think she's getting a little undersold as far as like what she's been able to do. I think where I thought she was before she started stepping into now, I probably thought, I was like, okay, well, we'll see. But I'm going to show one save here because I think in a general sense, tactically, I've been really thrilled with watching her play.
So before we watch the clips really quickly, Bill, I want to ask you, what were because obviously Laurel came out of Virginia. She worked with Jake Davis over Virginia. She came on and filled some depth on the roster over at Seattle. I don't know about you, but when she came into the league, I never saw her as a number one playing in the league. I saw her as a consistent depth position, a squad goalkeeper, for a career, maybe five years in the league. And then that was about it. Or maybe going overseas and playing, in a Scandinavian country, something along those lines. That's what I saw from her.
Yeah. I think that was kind of the general consensus, if I'm being honest. For me, I always have a hard time totally evaluating a goalkeeper when they don't get to a level and fail. And that was where Ivory was sitting at, where she did well in college, obviously played for the youth national team. I think there were some moments with some World Cups where, I think at the end of the day, she's going to want those moments back and those goals back. But like, to be fair, did well at Virginia, got to the league and hasn't really got a chance yet. And so, in my head, I'm like, well, I think the big critique on her is just athleticism and frame. I think she doesn't cover as much of the goal as some other goalkeepers. However, there's ways you can work around that for sure. So I think
And the
everyone
positive is she is bigger than Jake Davis, so there's that.
Wait, we're gonna get some hate mail after that. Sorry, Jake. But yeah,
I'm with you there, Jake.
Well, and even Jake would say, like, look, if you're not 6'5", you don't have to play 6'5". There are multiple ways to play the position. So I think, yeah, everyone's in the same boat of like the evaluation, give or take. But I think anyone who's been following her, she's actually done a fantastic job. And I think for my money's, my sake, my word is tactically she's in a really smart spot. She clearly is very, very thought out. So we're gonna watch this save here. But I think
she's also in a great situation in regards to the fact, not to interrupt you there, where she's got a veteran goalkeeper coach within the league in Lloyd Yaxley, that's working with her this season, and I can't think of anybody better to have in your corner when you have to step in for somebody like a Dickey getting injured, and have to take that position, than somebody that's been there before in the same situation. Obviously, he's had the situation back when he was in Orlando, I believe. He had the situation where he had to deal with injuries and another goalkeeper stepping in. So it's not unfamiliar territory to Lloyd.
Yeah, Lloyd's a highly respected goalkeeper coach, and you never really know what investment is going in behind the scenes and how that's showing. I like to think that watching Ivory's game, the sophistication she's at right now versus previously, like she's really grown into it. So I've really enjoyed watching her. I think it's fair to give some credit to Lloyd on this one here. But so we'll take a look at this play here. It's a bit zoomed out, but you'll see the ball's going down the far side there on the shadow change. You see Ivory's got a good positioning here. She's clearly got thought about what's happening on the backside. You'll see with her movement coming up here, but she's obviously have to protect the shot. As the ball gets slotted, she's moving over here. And I think you see a lot of goalkeepers that as they make the transition, they've just completely bailed out from their previous position, and there's no chance of ever going back against their momentum here. And so this is a pretty tricky save for her. This goes down low to her left side, and it's a little kick save there. Kind of a wild save. Her body's kind of sprawling a little bit. But as you watch it back here, the thing I love about it is like she has kind of plan A, plan B, plan C here. Like she's not just thinking, oh, I've got to go sell myself to the right. She has the ability to go left with her foot. Now, if that happens 10 times, does she save it 10 times? Probably not, but at least there's a blueprint. There's intentionality there. You see her give a little kind of hand point at the start of the play. She knows that there's a possibility that this ball can get slotted, and there's a high possibility that's going to come or give a shot. So, like, this is a sophistication where I think you see a lot of goalkeepers that are just kind of bumbling through the play, like, oh, it's been passed over. I need to go over there now. Whereas for her, she's thinking, well, it may come back to my left. It may go to my right. It may take another. It may be a dummies through to the next runner. Like she's clearly got some stuff thought out here.
I like what you said in regards to like intention and everything like that. And like if you can pause that really quickly when she's on the near post, if you can go back to that, Bill, that'd be great. So one of the issues that I see with a lot of young goalkeepers in this scenario right here is on that drop step of that pivot is their shift is already over because they're thinking about the big gap. They're thinking about the big gap. And so they're already playing that in their head that the ball's going to be slotted big gap. So they're leaning slightly that direction, which means that their momentum can't make that shift. What she does, if you watch the drop step here, it's a small drop step, but her weight is still positioned in such a way that she can still recover to the near post, because that looks like that ball takes a slight deflection, which is why it ends up going to that near post right there.
Yeah, maybe. When
if you look,
you got to think of this as kind of like as odds. If you know where the runner is and you know where the ball's going, you can kind of think, okay, maybe I don't need to play the center of the goal. So for here, she hasn't really covered much distance, which is kind of a risky play, because what if it does go back post, or what if it goes down the center of the goal? She's going to be in trouble. But I think she has an understanding that like the shooter's going to be shooting with their momentum. So whoever's running in there, that shot's going to go towards Ivory's left or at her. It's not going to go, more than likely, it's not going to go towards that far post on Ivory's right side. Like that's a tough shot to hit. Now it could happen, for sure. But now you're getting into kind of a gambling situation of placing odds of like, okay, what are the odds that it goes near post versus far post here? It is pretty, the scales get tipped there. So it is a little situational. If that ball goes farther over, then you're looking at more of a, looking at the other post there. But yeah, no, I'm with you. The drop step, the weight, the positioning, like it's fun to watch it. And I love how it's kind of like you can tell she sells her body out. It's not just like, oh, I'm going to kind of try to get it. We'll see what happens. But like, it's like her body almost explodes off the save, which is a lot of fun to see. So that was maybe the best play I've ever seen, or best save from her I've ever seen. Like that's a lot of fun to watch.
I mean, that's high praise right there. But like, I think, one of the things too, is if you go back and you look at like that back post runner right there, right? So if you go back, if you throw that back up there, and we can see this back post runner right there. So if she overshoots into this space because she's so worried about that back post runner, well, the ball's just slotted to the near post anyway, and there's nothing she can do about it.
Yeah.
Honestly, if this ball is played back across to the back post runner, she's going to get scored on anyway. So it's like, what are you going to do? So you have to kind of play it and look at like risk versus reward. It's like, okay, well, the goals are going to happen, and I just have to try to do the best job I can to eliminate goal scoring opportunities, not try to make a big save, but eliminate the most likely scenario here.
Yeah, and I try to tell my young goalkeepers of thinking, if you're playing rock, paper, scissors with someone and for a fact someone's going to throw rock 80% of the time, you're going to throw paper more. And it's not a guarantee you're going to win those matchups. They're going to throw scissors at some point. But here's like a good example of thinking of odds. Like she knows there's at least one runner, if not two runner. I don't know how much credit to give her. But even if she knows there are two runners there, she has to respect that first one, because that's real danger. Even if it gets the second one and maybe it takes a bounce, or maybe the defender gets it. There's a lot of reasons why that ball getting the second one could still fall short, but you have to protect that first one. And the same point, she has to protect the angle off on the original play for the shot, even if if you don't think that's going to really be coming, you still have to respect that. So I'm going to flip over to the other side here for Ivory's game, and for me, this is kind of like where I think. I don't know if it's room for growth or just general limitation. I can't really speak on that. But
by the way, shout out to the NWSL for giving us angles where the shade is directly in line of all the development of the play. It always makes it so much easier for us to break it down. Honestly, thank you, NWSL.
Yeah, love it. They also do this wonderful thing with their camera angles where they'll zoom in on the shooter, but you won't be able to see the goal. When the shot happens, they'll like quickly pan over, and you're like, well, I don't. Like, imagine in basketball if you like zoomed in on the shooter and then you quickly, like, you would never do that. So I
think U9 parents are the photographers, the videographers for NWSL.
Yeah, you're putting a target on us today with Jake and the.
Hey, you didn't say it. I said it. Gloves off, right? This is a different show than Inside the 18. I can say whatever the hell I want.
Yeah. So so similar situation, right? She's got to respect. And again, she's thinking about, okay, I don't need to just sit on my near post here. She's clearly thinking about what can happen off the backside or what can happen with a slotted ball here. As this ball gets to the end line, I think this is kind of where the limitations of her game are at the moment, where she only has so much athleticism to cover this, and it ends up being kind of a soft tip. And I think that's kind of the question mark for me of, is this something that she can grow in? Is this something she can add to her game? I don't think the decision is necessarily wrong. Wonderful shade again on this play. But she's done a good job of dropping in. She's done a good job of considering that ball. And I like how she kind of positions her body here. Like, she's considered that back post as an option, but she's shoulders are still kind of facing out to the play here. And then she really squares up, takes a step off that post. I love that. But if you're not going to be able to clear something that's like crossbar height, at the end of the day, you're just going to have troubles with this sort of stuff. Like, this ball isn't that high up. For a lot of goalkeepers, they're either holding that or really knocking that away. So I think you see Ivory's game. She's a little undersized, average athleticism. Can she find ways to kind of add that into her game? That's a big question mark. And I think that's why a lot of people kind of saw her as, well, she'll be kind of a depth player. So for me, she's still done very well. This is just one play, but I think if we're looking at areas for growth and where she can improve on, that I think that's the one most people are going to be looking at.
Yeah, but go back to that right there. Go back to the shape before the ball is clipped over her. So let's go back to the shape. Okay, so here's the issue with that right there. You have to see the triggers and cues here. You have to see the triggers and cues here. Now, based on the shape of the player that's lifting the ball right there, it's going to lift. And you're already in a negative position because you're already too low, because you're trying to eliminate that low shot. That's not what she's going to be able to do right there, because based on her body shape, if she had been higher up, right, but still in a dynamic shape, she would have gotten the power to push that off, in my opinion. So I think that's what's going on. Look at her shape right there. She's too low right there, and then she's not able to get that push off because she's just barely not getting at fingertips to it.
These are the type of complexities that you see in top leagues where a goalkeeper has to weigh a lot of things. So, we're stopping and slowing this. I'll put it in real time. I think even this is real time here. Like to have this driven near post, and I think that's the part in her head where she's like, I can't completely abandon near post here, even though it may feel like she's going for the lift and looking to lob over. That's just something as a goalkeeper you have to be really, really mindful of. So I think there's something to be said about it, and just you can see her body as it kind of leaves the ground. Like she doesn't get a lot of height. I think she knows she can jump higher than that, but I think just how she's using her body. I mean, the striker still has her shoulders over, to be fair. Like,
I mean, I'll be honest with you, Bill. That is a very that ball. It's not often that's going to be completed either, too.
Yeah,
in that situation. I mean, that's a very well placed ball.
Yeah, it's a good ball. It's a tough play, but I think you see a lot of goalkeepers that like Nair probably knocks that out. Lund definitely knocks that out. Murphy's going to handle that. So like that, and that, look, you're going to be a little bit undersized. You're going to be a little less athletic. You're going to have to show people that you can handle this. I think if she figures out her footwork, because it is kind of a little stumbling through it, she can make this play. It's a very tricky play. It's one that like you probably give the goalkeeper a bit of a pass on, but considering how close she is to it and how not high that ball is, I think that's one you'd like to see that, okay, if you're going to be a starter, you can handle this. So this
is something that was brought up to me by some undersized goalkeepers, in the past, and
not
severely not myself, severely undersized goalkeepers. Do you remember Anna Piccarelli?
No, who is that?
Okay, she played for the Italian national team.
Okay, it rings a little bit.
She played out here. I believe she played at Pepperdine. Anyway, also in Alina Hayes, who obviously played in Spain, and she came back to playing, after coaching for a bit in the league. It is in the whole coil aspect. So when you're under an undersized keeper, it's about having that slinky coil, so that if it's contained, you can push off and spring. But if you're in between, you've got no give. So you either stay high to be able to cover that space, or you drive all the way low and open up that gap because you can explode and push off and expand onto it. If that makes any sense.
No, absolutely. And I think what a taller
she was caught in the middle. So
well, and you think if you've got height, how you play the game, you're going to use a lot of power, and you have a little less quickness to rely on, but you can be powerful, you can be big, but the footwork and body shape and positioning you use doesn't necessarily, and oftentimes just doesn't translate to those shorter goalkeepers. And they have to, and I think this is where a lot of our shorter goalkeepers get underserved, is that they're trained by a goalkeeper coach who's 6'2", 6'3", 6'4", and they say, play this way. And it's like, that doesn't really work for them. They need to play a little bit more compact so they can have that spring. They need to be able to play in a way where they can move their feet and be quick and lean into those strengths of their game. They're not going to be the tallest. They're not going to be able to cover everything, but if they can move their feet, have some spring, they're going to be in a good spot. So, well,
it's the same thing in regards to like your profile, your shape determines how you push off, how you explode. If you've got wider hips, it's going to be almost more like a sumo type shape that's going to give you that push off and extension because you've got your hamstrings, your glutes, firing off right there. But if you're built more like a gazelle, you're not going to drop into that shape because you're not going to get anything out of that. So
yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm going to transition because we saw that wonderful foot save from Ivory, and I wanted to show kind of an overuse of the spread save, in my opinion. So just to be clear, that foot save from Ivory we showed just a second ago, that's not like a breakaway situation. That's not where you see the spread. That's just a foot save. And so what we're going to look at here are 3 examples from moments. Now, this is Sheridan from obviously the USA-Canada game here. And in my opinion, she's very good at executing the spread save when it's called for. But you'll notice the depth of the play here where she's dropped in, which is fine position here. But the distance from the shooter to her on this play, which ends up being a goal, I mean, that's, what is that, like 7-8 yards? And now she's looking to go for the spread save here. And it's, for me, it's the wrong tool for the wrong job. She's trying to go the spread for a situation which is 7-8. If she gets herself set, she can make this save. And there's a lot of things that go wrong with this spread save, and there's a lot of ways to overuse this. But the big thing for me that I keep seeing is if you're gapped out anything more than like 6 yards and you're still running down while they're winding up to strike it, like you're just not going to have any mobility. Your rhythm's going to be off. You're not going to be able to execute the shape in time. And so if she actually gets set here, let's get back to the replay here. If she gets set here, she probably can just make a foot save off of this. And that's not really the spread necessarily, although it is somewhat similar. But you'll just notice as she comes in, she's still kind of coming down. She's stepping forward as a ball's been shot. And that ball's not really passing her too far. I think that actually goes under her foot. And you can just see she's now breaking into her shape, but the ball is already 4 or 5 yards past her.
You know, I'm looking at this right here, and you know, first off, one thing is that Kaylin is very effective in the spread. So I want to say that, you know, for the most part, it's an action that works very well for her, and she's very confident in it. All these angles are a little bit different. Some of them make it look like it's closer, the space, and some of them make it look like it's farther away. I see the intent of what she was trying to do here, which is she was trying to force the angle away by shooting her body in such a manner that she was eliminating that space for the shooter to be able to go back across, and they would have to fire to the near, which generally I think she would stop that right there. I agree. I think she could have stolen a little bit more space, or she could have held, because a player is still in movement when she spreads. So she probably could have just held ground and waited and forced the player. And this is something that happens constantly. It's happened to me yesterday, you know, in a men's league game near the end of the game. I mean, just to use myself as an example, where I bite too early. And the reason is because I'm trying to bait the player into making an action. But because I bite too early, they now know they know my bluff. And so they wait. And so you kind of have to be like mindful of that, is that the player is reading your body too, not just the other way around.
Yeah, it's a real chess game. And I use the analogy of we take a move, they take a move. We take a move, they take a move. And so both are reading each other and understanding what's going on here. You know, she maybe drops in a little deep considering like there's pressure on the play and like a chip isn't really viable here, although she has to respect like this ball here, like maybe that could get lobbed over her depending on what that ball looks like. I don't know if she really, I think it's really difficult to go press this high with the timing of that. I think what's just easier is like for her to get set a yard above the 6 and just get set there and just make the play. So she's got something she really likes in her game and it fits well, but you can see she's almost like a full sprint here. It's like she's striding out, and this ball I think just goes under her left foot. We don't get a great camera angle at it. But this is just one of what I have 3 clips here for to see.
But Bill, honestly, I think that goal most of the time that should be scored by that striker. I think that should be completed.
But where's that ball entering the goal? I mean, I think it's under her left foot. Like where
is it? Okay.
I mean, that's going. That might actually be making her a bit. Like you don't get a great camera angle on it, but that's very. If she just stands still, it probably hits her.
Probably.
The shooter thinks, oh, they're coming down the line, so that changes things. But you know, again, it's kind of this chess game of like, what are your odds? What do you have to do here? If you're trying to do too many moves at once, like, you know, you're going to get in trouble. So I'll show
I think you're a great point right there. It's like, you want to hope that they hit it within your bubble right there, because the thing is that like, I think that was a mishit. I don't think she meant to hit it there. I think she was meant to hit it across the post. So,
yeah, no, I think you're right. And, you know, if they score that goal, okay, that's one thing, but that's soft for me. Like that's something that she can save and keep that out. So again, with the timing aspect, I'm going to jump to, we've got 3 clips total on this. This is mainly hot on a play. You'll see that the release and when I say release, I mean like the start of the execution of the spread save is just a little late. And so really the reason why the spread save has become viable is because it does 2 really nice things. It covers the 5-hole, which is the spot between your feet for the people who aren't familiar with the hockey terminology. But you've also got some width. You know, your feet, your leading foot that's extending out is giving you width. Your back foot behind you is giving you a little bit more width than than nothing. Yes, you could go on your side, but now you start getting that problem of like that spot under your hands, that spot under your shoulder, ribs. Like it's a shape that like works really well when you're trying to get a little bit of height, a little bit of width here. So it's not really the wrong choice in this situation. You can throw it. I think a lot of goalkeepers are just going to go on their left and be big here. You know, I understand that. But you can see that this ball, again, gets slipped under, and she's going up with her body. She's actually jumping up with a save and then coming down, you know, and I think that's going under like her left thigh, left knee spot, where she's basically getting megged on the play because she's opened up that spot. And that's really the only like really viable spot the striker has. Yeah, they could try to lift it a bit, but you know, she's opened up that spot. And again, we're trying to use the spread save, which you can do. There's a lot of excitement on that play. You can do, but if you're going to leave that spot open, like you've got to make sure you cover that.
I want to see that again.
You're going to get busted for it.
You know,
so you see this ball drops here. She sees the play, but she has this kind of hiccup where she kind of jumps up. I'll try to like pause it here. So she sees the play develop. You know, and this is a high scoring chance. I'm not going to take that away from her, but like both her feet are now, I mean, her shoulders are like mid height of the goal. She's very high here. She's jumped up, and that 5-hole is now wide open for her to score that. Where it's if she drops her body into the save, she protects that 5-hole. Yeah, she's not going to cover the whole goal, but the dribbler down the middle of the goal now gets covered. But
yeah,
I
was thinking either starfish, or I was thinking even you could drop into a smother and just go at the feet right there. Now, obviously that could be a dangerous situation too. But if you drop body right there, again, that player doesn't have enough time to lift that ball over you. And if they do, that's a brilliant goal. But if she goes back right there and she just drops shoulder and she attacks that space and goes down, I think she smothers that.
Yeah, I think
which is a lost start, honestly.
Well, and I think a lot of goalkeepers, like especially older ones, yeah, they're seeing this and thinking, yeah, just go on your left side. What's the big deal here? And I think that's a viable solution as well. I think the problem we're getting into with a lot of these goalkeepers is they're seeing the spread save and they know it's when it's done well, it's amazing. It's a type of save that you really can't replicate elsewhere. But it's like anything. If you're overusing a tool, like, you know, if she was trying to like catch this like W shape, like that's not the situation for this. Like you wouldn't be doing that here. So I'm going to show one more here. This ends up actually being not a goal.
I mean, you don't think that could be like a Cobra type situation right there?
Oh yeah, I know, absolutely. Yeah, for sure. She could go on her left side here. No questions here. Like she could just drop on her left. Maybe that's the most high percentage play. I can't really weigh on that. I've seen goalkeepers do this spread save here and be fine, but you have to execute it well. Her right knee is like still too locked out. That right knee needs to be dropping down. Her shoulders need to be coming down, not kind of hopping up a bit and opening up that 5-hole. So I think complexity wise, if you go to on your left side, you're fine. So similar situation here as far as like overusing a spread save, in my opinion. And I'll just play it through actually and kind of let people see here. But this ball kind of trickles through, a little clumsy here, but we get away with this here. And you're going to see on the replay here in a sec that first of all, Kingsbury's like execution of it gets really clunky at a point. And there's a point where like she almost locks her. I mean, again, you've got the 5-hole there, but watch her left cleat come down. Like that's a good way to bust your knee, bust your hip. Like you're asking for an injury there. She's sitting on her right foot as well. But from the striker point of view,
I feel like my knee is just what's the word? You know what I mean?
Dislocated
yeah. Okay. Dislocated by just looking at that shape right there. My knee feels hurt, like it hurts.
And it's not too, I mean,
hyperextended. There we go.
Yeah. It's not too dissimilar from the force used what hurt Dickey. Totally different play, but like that's a lot of stress that's coming on the knee there. And you can tell she's trying to get her knee down, but she also just kind of sits on her right foot, which you see a lot of goalkeepers do. From the striker's point of view, if there's enough wherewithal, she just takes a touch and goes around Kingsbury here. So you see this here. She's got her head down because she's been clipped a little bit, but Kingsbury throws it too early, and she's got her beat right there. If she can realize, okay, hey, like she's stuck in the ground. All I need to do is just go around her. she's done. Now she kind of hits into the chest here, and I like that the arms are coming down. She's thinking about that shape. You see a lot of goalkeepers struggle with on her left side where Kingsbury, her arm is tighter to her leg, which is good. If the ball hits, it's going to catch both of those ideally. But like the shape is dangerous, and she
Bill,
throws
go back to the approach in regards to like the body, her angle run on the approach.
So I think she thinks here she's in, whereas the defender kind of clips her a little bit. That might be a foul, to be honest. So now she has to, and I think this is a tricky play for what you're kind of calling out there. Like she has to step up and then transfer over again.
Exactly. Yeah.
So the distance wise, like I think this is a good distance for the spread save, but it's a tough thing to like time out because she throws it a little early, and again, if the striker's paying any attention, she can just round her here, but she just kind of hits it into her body. So she gets away with a little bit, but also like kind of more my complaint is like dangerous wise. Like I think I'm done watching that play like that. That's uncomfortable. You're going to be strong and flexible, be able to get through some certain stuff, but like, that's something that you're asking for some problems there.
Well, my concern is first off is that in regards to like if I was the goalkeeper coach afterwards, first off, I don't want to negate any sort of save situation. You want to keep the confidence of your goalkeeper from a social and a mental standpoint with the team and with themselves. But I would kind of just kind of make a mental note for myself in regard to like it's a long season. We're in May right now, and if our goalkeeper is putting their body in that type of a situation right now, like that is concerning because what is their physical well-being going to be in September? Especially if she goes to the Olympics, and she's doing that kind of stuff at training, because I don't think Aubrey's going to be, no disrespect to Aubrey, I don't think she's going to be the number one for the US. I'd be concerned about that. So
well, she's only the 2-time NWSL goalkeeper of the year. So we'll see. But at 32, like, and I think you see it there, like she's clearly not comfortable with the spread save completely. She is throwing it. Obviously, she's utilizing it.
Didn't one year was she W League goalkeeper of the year and NWSL goalkeeper of the year? Did that sound
right? I know she went to Australia for a few years. That sounds
this is
right.
Insane.
Yeah. So she definitely deserves more caps, and I mean, we'll see if Nair returns. I mean, she's certainly in the running for it. I think it's one of these things. Like she's 32. Like if you're gonna do that, you have to completely commit to it. Otherwise, you're risking injury, and you're also risking goals at that point if you haven't quite mastered a new technique. And that's really maybe a side volley is the only other thing I can think of like a new technique goalkeepers are really picking up right now. As far as like goalkeepers in their 30s, like I can't really think of anything else if I'm being honest. So,
can we touch on that really quickly? I know it's not on the rundown and everything like that, but obviously it's big news that Nair was not selected by Emma Hayes, which means that the injury is of a severe enough case that they believe she should stay with Chicago and continue rehabilitation. Do you read anything into that, or do you just go, no, these are just friendlies?
I think they're going to do everything they can do to get Nair to play, and at the Olympics. I think that's everyone's focus right now. I don't necessarily agree with it. Like, I mean, I think she's getting significantly outplayed by a lot of American keepers right now. So, but I think just history goes. I mean, she's got umpteen caps, and that was after a long wait from solo. So, they're going to look to get her in at all costs. If she doesn't go into camp until the day of the Olympics, like they'll still play her, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, my thing about in regards to like what's going on right now with that was just coming through right here. Can you hear me? Okay, cool. My thing in regards to like what was going on with that selection right there with that camp right there is that we just brought in, it looked to me like because of the selections that they made, which are all basically around the same age group and around the same, level in the league in their form and everything like that, is that they're looking for somebody who could step in and play for her if she's not available. That camp did not look like all of a sudden there was like a out of nowhere type of a situation. Like, oh, Mandy Hott's here now. Like what? Like that sort of a thing. So
well, they've gotten themselves into a position. It's been a problem for like 15 years where, you look at the first 20 years of the women's national team, and it was a highly competitive position. Like, I know Scurry had a ton of caps, but she goes 99 World Cup winner and loses her starting spot for the 2000 Olympics. Like that, it's a highly competitive spot for all those years. And then Solo comes in, and it's kind of like, well, let's basically just kind of camp down on one. I mean, you've got the 07 World Cup, which is a bit of a debacle, but outside of that, like it's basically like all the caps are going to this person, and maybe that's financially related of trying to I understand like trying to supplement income. However, what we've gotten now into is like, well, we don't really know who our number 2 is. Like, who is it? You ask 100 fans, you're going to get a lot of different answers. So, for me, like, you've got to keep that spot honest and open and kind of merit based. And if you start just relying on someone because it's comfortable, then, you start shutting down. I mean, the last time Nair won goalkeeper of the year in the NWSL, I think was 2014. Like it's been a long time. 2013, 14, like it's been a long time. Other goalkeepers have come and gone that have played and got the award, but like they don't get a chance in. And Kingsborough is a great example. It's like 2-time league goalkeeper of the year, but I think
she didn't even get calls. She didn't even get call ups until later on in her career.
Yeah.
It's not like a Casey Murphy situation where she started getting call ups, earlier on.
Yeah, so. For sure. Well, speaking of the number 1, we've had a bit of an influx from foreign talent into the league. Most notably in recent times, you've got Berger, who both Saskia and I were given high praise to. I think for right now, she's top of the league for me in the short window that she's been here. We'll see how things move on. But in past years, just off the top of my head, we had Bardsley, we had Buhati, and I think people left feeling like that was okay. Onger is a little bit farther ago, but all those goalkeepers were really late in their career. But there's one name that's kind of circled a bit more, which is Mary Earps, which is the English national team number 1 goalkeeper. And obviously has a lot of talent in her game, but I'm curious on your thoughts, Michael. How does she fit into the league? Is she at the level? Is she above the level? Where do you view Earps in as far as relative to the league?
Well, first off, we have to start in regards to Mary Earps. Mary Earps has been around for a long time. I don't think people need to understand that. Mary Earps was in the selection for England years and years and years ago as a third string, kind of an afterthought. I'm not going to lie. I mean, a lot of people thought after Bardsley, Ellie Roebuck was going to be the number 1 moving forward. Even Karen said that to me. She said, I think Ellie's, going to be the number 1 moving forward. Obviously, injuries and some other unfortunate situations led to Ellie kind of falling out of favor. But then the big thing happened, Hannah, Sandy, we got all these up and comers, type of thing happening. And, Hannah was in a horrible situation at Birmingham and finally got to move into an actual club. No disrespect to Birmingham, but they had some struggles out off the field at that club. And Sandy, obviously has been to places such as, start out as Everton and continued on her career. And Mary just kind of kept trudging along. And it was really the Euros that kind of put Mary on the map, in my opinion, where everyone like worldwide was like, oh my gosh, is she a product of the system that she was in, or is she the world's best goalkeeper? I don't know. One of the problems with the WSL is that it's not the parity of NWSL where we see week in and week out, you're playing against comparable competition, so how much is she challenged in the WSL versus in the NWSL? I believe Mary is coming to the United States. I believe that she's done everything that she's wanted to accomplish over there. She's not going to win the WSL. So it's not going to happen, with the situation, that's going on. And it looks like it's pretty much consistently going to be Chelsea, Man City, that those are the two clubs over and over again. I think it depends on like the situation she goes into. Where does she go? She's going to go to a high profile market, honestly. So let's look at high profile markets that could be splash the cash first off, bring in a number 1 like a Mary Earps, and how much better is she than what they already have? If I look at the situation, she's not going to Gotham. She's not going to Orlando, because Orlando's riding high right now, which blows my mind to say that. So it's been, how long has it been since Orlando's been good? Everything points to me like Bay spent so much money. I don't see them bringing in somebody else, although their situation's kind of, still in a little bit of upheaval. Caitlin and Prue are such different goalkeepers, so I don't want to even rank them a 1 or a 2. Angel City would be where I would be thinking if she comes.
Yeah.
And I guarantee you they would sign her, just because Angel City is consistently building that brand, that world brand.
Yeah.
I don't know how much better she is than Didi. I don't know.
Yeah. I'll be honest. I think most of the teams in the league, if they had a chance to sign her, they would, just from like the brand aspect. And obviously she's a good goalkeeper. I do not think she's number 1 in the world. I think that is ridiculous. I think she is a bit of product of circumstance of like getting a chance to play, and she's done fine for herself. And we'll take a look at a couple of her clips here. But I mean, I'm looking at the stands right now. Like Orlando, I think for sure would bring her in. You're going to get a crowded roster. I get it, but like they would for sure. Portland would for sure. Chicago's like kind of
even though those teams are such at the top of their game right now, you want to throw that upheaval in there right there.
Absolutely, I think they would do it. I think they would do it. Just because they know it's added value, and if you're going to really run your organization as like, hey, like we're constantly striving to get better, and not just kind of like, okay, like we're here now, like. If you're top of the NWSL, like the message surely is, hey, like we're going to look to continue to push and bring in pieces we need that can help elevate the team. And like everyone's professional, like they know their job is constantly on the line. Yeah, those lower level teams, like, it's easier to improve those. But I mean, you see it in every league, in every sport, that Super Bowl winning champs, like they don't just bring back the same roster. Like they know, hey, like everyone's going to be gunning for us. So like, yeah, I think overwhelmingly like the league, like San Diego, no, Gotham, no, maybe Chicago, no, but they know Nayer's like getting up there. Like Houston's probably a no, but then also like I don't think she's going to go to Utah. Sorry, Utah, but like
no, but that's what I'm saying. I think Mary will go to a high profile market, and that's why I think Orlando is kind of a little concerned. I mean, it is Florida, state tax thing situation. I just don't know what kind of fees she's at. I don't know what kind of wage she's at Man U, and how many clubs are. Again, we're talking about NWSL, and we're talking about salary, cap restrictions and all of that. This is not the EPL, where you can just throw whatever you want.
Yeah, I think it's kind of 50-50 on if she comes or not, because there's only so many spots. At the end of the day, it's not a huge league, and the money thing is going to be a big question mark, because she knows she can get a lot of money in England. That's not a question. So like, does she stay? Does she go? We'll see, but I wouldn't be surprised. Like they've done so much stuff in the past, and she's only 31. I mean, she's got a few years left to play at a high level. Like, it's not like she's 37, 38 and coming down. So
I mean, I'll look at it this way. Like I personally, and again, I haven't spoken to her about it, so I don't. This is just speculation. I believe that Fallon would not have, when things fell out of favor, at Reign, with her, and she made the move to Man United. I don't think she would have gone over there to be a long-term number 2. I think she would have only gone over there if there was an understanding that Mary was going to be at least leaving the club, if not the league, anytime soon. And this is a new, from a branding standpoint for her, it would be a great move for her to come over here, because I think she's already identified herself in Europe as a name.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. She's definitely a name alone. Like, I mean, she's probably the most popular. She's got the hottest name right now, and I think in all goalkeeping in the world on the women's side. I mean, the whole jersey stuff. Like you see the NWSL releasing jerseys, I think in large part because of Earps, like because how hers sold out so fast. So,
but I mean, she was starting at Man United when she was in her 20s, when she wasn't even in the England selection. So
what's changed? Yeah, yeah. No, you're absolutely right. Absolutely right. Well, to give people a bit of an idea on Earp's game, I've got a few clips here. I don't know if I'll go through everything, but I think and we're going to go through 2 saves to start, and then we'll go through some, I think, kind of softer goals in my opinion. But I think where Earps like really succeeds is, and we talked about this a little bit earlier, but knowing how to use her frame and her skill set. She's not the tallest goalkeeper, and I think this is a great save where you see she clearly plays with a lot of energy. Her teammates love playing with her, but also, most importantly, she knows how to move her feet. So she's set here, and she covers the near post. And now this isn't the hardest hit shot, but I mean, that's a lot of steps there. A lot of goalkeepers instantly go into their dive. So we'll see it in real time here. It's hit, she's set, and she moves her feet. Whereas a lot of goalkeepers just fall over trying to hope that they're big enough, and some get away with that. But I think for Earps' game, like, it's really nice to see a shorter goalkeeper know how to play with their skill set and know how to move their feet.
I mean, I think technically this is a very sound save, and honestly, one of the things that I like about it, and I think a lot of young goalkeepers need to see this because I bring this up so many times, is look at the flight of the ball and look at her shoulder height. She's keeping her shape to the height of the flight of the ball rather than dropping her shape below the flight of the ball. Because if she has to come up and attack that ball, it's a different scenario than staying at that height of the flight of that ball.
Yeah. She knows, I mean, it's a kind of a flicked back header. Like, it's not going to have a ton of power. So she's keeping her body up so she can move her feet. If she hunches down, yeah, she'll have a lot of explosive power, but like, that's not really what the situation calls for. So no, I think you're absolutely, right. Let's take a look at this save as well. Again, kind of a bit of a scrambling mentality. Like, she has this real, like, never be beat sort of attitude, and I think she yells F off there.
This is a very Mary Earps save, by the way.
Yeah.
Very Mary Earps save.
Yeah. You know, like, I don't think there's much to nitpick. Again, you've got a bit of a flick here, and she's trying to figure out like where to get. And I think this is one of the stuff plays where, as this ball comes in as a goalkeeper, you're thinking, well, this could go to really 4 people here. So how do you position yourself? Like, you don't have the luxury of time to get where you want to get. So she kind of gets where she thinks it's going to go, because I think that number 22, 23, like, it could land to her. So she's coming back to her left, but then she sees this ball is going. And so she still has like the wherewithal to have kind of plan B, plan C kind of picked out here. So it's a nice claw out. I mean, that's a fantastic save. Like, that's a big stretch there. You know, I think for a goalkeeper who's a little bit undersized, she still has a lot of athleticism to give. It's a bit more mobility related. Yeah. I talk about an English moment there.
That is the most British thing I've ever seen. It's just welcome to Wrexham right there.
Yeah. So, but that's a great save. I love seeing that. So I think for me, Earps' highs are high, but her lows, like, for me, there's just moments where I'm just like, man, like, this is supposed to be the top goalkeeper in the world here. Like, this is sort of stuff that like feels a bit beneath her at times. So we'll see this play here. Like, ball's on the far side, gets brought to the top of the 18. We kind of get back into a similar spot here, but this basically just goes through her. You know, for me, like, this is a bit off her shoulder, but if you just look at her body language as she goes to ground, she's just falling back here. So she's moving well. This is all good here. She takes her spot. She gets set here. This is fine. Totally fine with this. But we just see the response. It's like she's just falling out of it, and she's spun out of it. Whereas this is something you're not going to like dive forward here. I understand that, but you can't be spinning backwards off this play. Like, that's just her hands and feet are in totally different mindsets, where her feet are like going forward here, and her hands are rolling back.
Well, I mean, yeah, look, I mean, positionally, everything looked reasonable until the last moment right there, where I think it might have just been caught a little bit too near post. But I think one of the things that I want young goalkeepers to recognize this when you play that back right over there is, when I bring this up constantly in regards to like, don't let your feet lead you in your shape. This is what I'm talking about. When your feet are leading you, you're going to get caught with your body momentum taking you negative. And you're not going to be able to react. However, if your feet are behind and your upper body is leading you, you're going to be able to adjust. And even if you go negative, you're still going to be able to get coverage.
Yeah, you can see that she's doing what you're saying. Like, her feet are behind a bit. She's leaning forward. if I just kind of click through here, like her shoulders start rising up, and now her feet are kind of getting in the lead here, where she's getting very close to getting straight up, and that's why this ball kind of blows by her. I wouldn't say that's necessarily a bad goal, but like for a number one, it's like
No, that's a good goal. That's a well hit ball.
I think that's
you don't think so?
Goal. I'd say okay.
Okay.
It's hit with power, but it's such a sharp angle. I mean, that's just off her shoulder there. Like there's no footwork needed. It's just a paw to get over there.
But again, because she's leading with her feet there, that's why that happens. And you're right. If she was leading forward, and again, guys, we're nitpicking to the nth degree, but the difference is, I mean, take a Christiana Endler in her prime. Does that save happen?
Yeah, I mean, if you're gonna shoot for best in the world, like I think that saves. That have to be no question about it. I'm gonna throw up two more here. So we've got a short corner here, some nice little play here. They play out. This ball gets sent in back post. And I think this is like the lack of sophistication. We saw a lot of plays today where someone's thinking plan B, plan C. And she's done well up to this point. She's moved fine. But as this ball gets here, it's kind of like, well, I hope this works out. It's like, I don't really know what the plan is there. She doesn't react to the ball passes her. I get the starfish approach. Don't hate it. Don't love it. Don't hate it. But she doesn't release anything till that ball is like past her. And that ball's well within the 6. Do I think she can get it? I don't know. But she's just letting this drop here. I mean, that ball's getting in deep. That's 4 yards from goal. And she's just kind of standing there like, I don't know what I'm going to do. If she's going to spread for that starfish, like it needs to be happening now, not getting there and responding to it. I know it's a tough play because visually, that's off her back shoulder. So she doesn't quite know what's going on there. But she has to know, okay, worst case scenario, like someone's running at this. I have to have something planned for this.
I think she thought that the ball could be brought down too, as opposed to hit directly. So that might be why she delayed her starfish until.
Yeah. Well, she's pretty surprised on the play. She does not expect this to be hit at that time. And that's why she, as the ball's passing her, she's like, oh, like now I need to do something.
Yeah.
Like, it's not so much a bad goal for me. Like, even if she starfishes on that, I think that's probably still a goal. But I think for me, the problem is like, if you're ever watching a goalkeeper get into a spot where they aren't quite sure what they should be doing, like that's a bit concerning. Even though this play is really rare, this type of play where the ball drops inside the 6 and you can't go get it like that, that's rare. But still, like that's not, if you're going to be number one in the world, like that's not excusable for any goalkeeper to get caught yourself in the spot where you're like, I don't really know what to do here.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough one right there. I mean, for sure. In regards to like, I will to give her the credit right there. Like that's a solid striker finish right there.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with the
right across the body.
I don't have a problem with the goal scored, but like that's just weird positioning there. Like that's something.
Well, she's a little too far over. She's a little too far over. I think she.
Yeah, it's tough because it's like, I'm fine with the positioning there where she is. I think it's just a body shape. She's very high up, and she clearly doesn't know what she wants to do here. Her hands.
She got. I mean, she got caught. She got caught in the middle for sure.
Yeah.
And I think we've all been there. I think we've all, especially in a ball like this, come across and realized we don't know what we want to do. We always talk about intention, right? And having intention. And I don't think there was an intention before she tried to make an action.
For me, it's like, are we going to grade her off like best in the world or top NWSL goalkeeper? Or are we going to grade her off as like just another goalkeeper? Like if it's just another goalkeeper, hey, it's a tough play. Like, okay, fine. Hey, if you're going to be vying for like a top spot, like that, for me, like it's inexcusable to not have a plan to execute there. Whether you saved or not, like you have to have something picked out there. So. Well,
look, you also have to recognize the fact that like when she won Player of the Year in Europe and UEFA and the Golden Glove and everything like that, it was based on team performances too. It was not just based off individual statistics.
Yeah.
So you have to recognize that a lot of those accolades were not just because It's not like she was playing at, some random team that was getting destroyed, left-hand or international team, that was like, finishing in a 4th place finish. Like she was like on the top Euro winner, she was on a top WSL team, and all of that was leading to those awards. So
she got the English bump. It was like, oh, you play for England? Okay, like times 10 on the votes, So
yeah.
Well, wait, I have
not
one
like
more
playing for Chile.
Yeah, it's a little more difficult. I have one more clip. I'm going to skip that because we beat her up enough here. Be very curious to see where she develops. But I have 2 clips that I don't really have a narrative for. I just thought they were great saves, so I'm going to show them. I can kind of just walk through. But this is the sort of stuff that I think when we start talking about intentionality and blueprint and kind of plan B, plan C, you start to see it in these plays here. So I got one from AD here. Is this French? I think as the first shot, you see this and you're like, okay, like she saved up to the top left here. Like, what's the big deal? It's a shot from distance. As I went back and watched this, you'll see the deflection here. And it's not the biggest deflection, but it catches her and that ball comes back over her left. And so France now has to take a shot that's like pretty much at her. Now it's going to go back to her left side. And it's not a huge redirection there. I understand that. But I think if I'm just being honest, I've seen this goal scored a lot where it clips off someone just enough.
Oh, yeah.
And that slips in. So again, you look at it from distance, you're like, well, that shot's from like almost 25 out. What's the big deal? But knowing like how difficult that can be, like, and that's a testament to French's athleticism. Like that's a big time save there. That's one where the striker's like, oh, I thought I was going to get gifted on one there, off the post as well. So that's a really fun save.
Yeah. I think that's also one of those things where it's like AD's obviously a veteran goalkeeper who's been around forever. And she is not getting past the moment. She's completely focused on that ball, and until the action is completed, she's not done with it. So it's not like strike is hit, it's coming at me, great, I'm going to handle it. No, it's like, let me see this all the way through. And that's why she's able. And I think the goalkeepers that are able to improvise within the moment, and I'm a big fan of improvisation within the moment, are the ones that don't get ahead of themselves.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. All right, so last save here, and we've already talked about Hot from earlier. This whole play is kind of wild. I think I'm still not quite sure what actually happens here. So it's a save. I don't love the rebound, but she gets up here. You'll watch on the replay. It I think it hits on the bottom part of her wrist on that ball that comes from the second shot. So the first one's a little tricky. She's laying out. I'd like to either see that get pushed farther wider or for her to hold it. However, I think having the wherewithal again to like see this and be like, okay, I need to get up here, and just to kind of click through. I'm pretty sure this clips under her wrist where she like drops her wrist down and puts like backspin on it to keep it out of the goal. And I don't think that was totally intentional, as be my guess. I think she's just like, I got to get something on it. I think she's currently upside down at that point in the play. And so it's kind of a hectic play. You talk about improving. Like this is a good example where like the play has broken down. And as a coach, you can kind of train this sort of moment of like, rebound, get up. But to think of like, okay, how do I cover the goal, of which right now she's covering none. She's literally out of the goal shape here. But she comes in, it starts to sell her body, and she doesn't just freeze her body. She has the reaction to drop her hand there. Like that's a crazy save, like rolls over on herself. Like that's just a fun moment to watch of like, and then she gets up again for like the potential third shot. Like, I don't know. You see a lot of goalkeepers just kind of like give up on the player or have no idea what to do. This is just a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah. I'm not horrible. The intention again on the steer on that initial shot is not bad. I think if she could get it again, she would have tried to put a little bit more power behind that steer to play it a little bit farther out. However, she's not fully behind that ball, so she's not able to get that full steer into the ball. And I think that's what leads to that spill in that space. But she is able to come up and recover and cover that gap quick enough to be able to sell that space right there. I agree. I can't tell you how many times, especially in the youth game, where that initial steer is made and the second the player gets up, it's already in the back of the net because they're like, they're not within the play anymore. They're like, I made my action. Oh, wait.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
you can't teach that. That's just instinctual.
No, for sure. And I think, I mean, she's trying to do a lot in the play. Like you can see that she's calling out to put pressure on the ball, but I feel pretty confident she sees that runner on the left side, but also there's another one that ends up taking the shot. So she's trying to think about all this sort of stuff. Like I think that might contribute to her not really being able to steer totally correctly and with confidence. But at the end of the day, like, yeah, it's one of those like, what are you going to do in the next play sort of thing? Like, are you going to give up and be like, like they got me on that one, or I did my job. It's like, no, you see it all the way through, like you're saying about French. So, yeah, 2 fun saves for me. I again don't really have a narrative for those. I just really enjoyed them, and I think they kind of got overlooked from the last.
Bill, question for you, real quick, as we're watching Mandy Hot right there and everything like that. Just want to talk about some of the teams that are struggling in the league right now. And I use that term loosely because that bottom tier of the league is pretty jam packed with a lot of 7 points, 6 points, 5 points, 9 points, all that sort of thing. And then you got kind of the cream of the crop up at the top or whatever. Like, what do those goalkeepers in the lower tier right now need to do to help improve their teams get up? And honestly, I don't think they can get up. I think the elites are kind of separating themselves. We're already looking at and seeing that, Portland, which started off slow, is now looking like a contender. So.
Yeah. I'm just looking on the standings right now. You got from bottom to top, Utah, Seattle, Houston, and you got Hot, Ivory, and Campbell. And I think probably the the thread there for me is to get your team to concede less shots. The shot stopping wise from all 3 of those goalkeepers, and you throw Dickey in there as well. It's like, yeah, I think we're fine. I think you're in a good spot shot stopping wise. But can you connect with your team? Can you connect with your left back, your right back, or maybe you've got a rookie center back or whatever it is, or maybe you're playing the 3-5-2 like in Houston is. Like,
I wouldn't be surprised that if Houston is like that Jen Campbell's averaging like 6 saves a game.
Yeah. Well,
like, I'm not joking.
Like the shot stopping wise, like all of them are doing well, but it's, can you get your team to concede less shots?
That's what I'm saying. Is like that you should not have a goalkeeper that's averaging 6 saves a game.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's not good.
I mean, unless you want to be Keylor Navas in Costa Rica in the World Cup in 2014. So
yeah, and that's tough because it's, as a goalkeeper, it's frustrating because okay, like this isn't really on me. It's not my responsibility that my center back keeps messing up or whatever. Like, but if you can get out of that mindset and think, okay, yeah, it's not my fault. However, can I help my team? Can I help them, do a little bit better here? Like if I'm looking at right now, both those 3 teams I just named, they have 17 and 19 goals conceded, but also Kansas City's in second with 15 goals conceded. So like, it's not, if you can get your team to kind of like limit certain things so you can get other things, like if you're defending all the time, you're getting less chances to attack. But if you start defending less, like you're getting more chances to attack. So it's tough because they're not robots. It's not PlayStation like where you're controlling. Like I get that. However, if there's something you recognize that your right back, left back, or whatever, like can help the team, that's where you have to start looking to put your resources in, and still also doing a good job. And that's why I kind of like the last clip from Hot, where she's trying to get pressure on the ball. She doesn't want a shot from an open shot from top of the 18 inside the 18. Like she wants someone to step, but you've got to make sure you're putting enough resources into the team aspect, but also without devaluing the main objective of goalkeeping, which is always, is going to be shot stopping unless there's like a massive rule change or something. So
I mean, I will say this,
tough
in regards to all of that. First off, a couple things. One is that like, and this is something I was a culprit of younger in my career, and as I got older, got better at it, is recognizing that like there's a time to communicate and there's a time to focus on the action at hand, focus on the play at hand. I think that Mandy did a great job there in regards to like this. I want to manipulate this shot to be in an area where I'm going to leave myself successful. So like, this is where I want you to slide so that when that shot does happen, we're in a situation to be able to handle that the best. I think that's the best way to communicate with your back line. That being said, and this is something that Tim McQueen told me, he says, you have to recognize the strengths and weaknesses of your back line and you have to communicate and organize based on that, not based on concept of what you think would be the right decision in that play. If you know you got a player, they're not that great on that right, you don't want to force them on that right? You don't want to put them in that situation. You'd rather have that player slide it in interior so that they're strong on that left covering. So
yeah, and it's tough because it's like peer to peer at the end of the day. I mean, even if there's an age gap, but for you to be like, hey, I'm going to tell you what to do. I know a lot of goalkeepers struggle to do that at any level. However, like, I mean, I think of like maybe a more tangible examples. Like if you've got a left back that you know they're just out of control when they do 1v1 defending, they get in too involved and they either get beat or foul. Like your communication to that player has to be more of like getting them to calm down, to not overplay their hand, like whereas your right back, if they're kind of sluggish, but like, they have the skill set to do something like, you're going to coach them, talk to them, communicate to them differently. So it's a tough ask, and it's something that's not really worked on a lot of times with goalkeepers, but like obviously it's very, very important. So that was a good question, but it's much easier said than done for all the things we just kind of named.
Yeah, goalkeeping's hard, guys. It's hard.
It's very hard. Yeah, it only gets harder the higher up you get. I've loved watching more in depthly. I love watching the league this year. I've been following it for years, obviously, but finding these random saves from Franch and Hott, and finding these, looking into the spread stuff. Like I think the league is in a really exciting spot with goalkeeping at the moment. So it's been kind of a treasure trove for me of just seeing like all these little things of, you're seeing a healthy amount of improv, you're seeing a healthy amount of intentionality. It's only going to get better. So yeah, it's a lot of fun. So, but that wraps up episode 3 of Gloves Off, and we'll see if Michael's allowed back up on the podcast here. If Saskia is going to fight you off for it, or
I think she's she's had 2 games back to back. She had Angel City, San Diego last night. She's got North Carolina and Houston tonight. So if you guys are listening to this or watching this right now, check that out tonight. But and then she's gonna be coaching TST, but next couple of weeks she's gonna be around. So maybe I'll slip in that week that she's at TST coaching that Angel City team. So are you gonna watch that TST, by the way, Bill?
I don't know if I could avoid it. I feel like it's everywhere. I mean, I forgot it existed, and it's been blowing up on anything I get on. It's like TST. I'm just like,
it's not that far from you. You should go.
Oh, is it out this way?
It's in North Carolina.
Oh, yeah, I didn't know that. Maybe
it's at Cary.
Yeah, maybe I'll venture down. I didn't know that. Okay, all right.
Yeah, you should go. It's in Cary, North Carolina. So
yeah, that'd be fun.
If you want media passes through us, let me know.
I'll take a look. We'll see. I'm in real time trying to think about this, so you've put me on the spot. But yeah, I'll take a look. We'll see what we can do.
There's some interesting teams there on both the men's side and the women's side. I believe
sure.
JJ Watt is going to play for Burnley.
Oh, good. Go, yeah, that'll be something. Yeah.
There's some circuses on the men's side, that's for sure.
Yeah.
On the women's side, they seem like pretty competitive teams, though. So
no, it'll be good. It's a fun level, but it's also a competitive level. And the way they structure the winner in each game, like I think that helps a lot. And you can't just kind of skate out a win. You have to score the winning goal in every game. So.
Oh yeah, I love that. Like the expected. What is it called? Like the goal. Whatever it's called, where you have to hit a certain amount of goals or something like that. Yeah,
I forget.
Yeah, it's fun though.
Yeah. All right, everyone. Well, that's it for Gloves Off this week. So we'll kick back next week with our regular time and showing. So we'll see you then. But until then, we'll see you next week.
All right. Sounds good. Later.